probably show up.
Yeah, fine.
We're also good right now.
Yeah.
And we're fine right now.
It will be better when they show up.
Mhm.
More love.
I can hear us on the live stream, so that's good.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so it's working.
But sometimes the picture
Oh,
doesn't
the
switch.
camera doesn't switch, right?
So I played it with the camera. Let's see if the camera switches like it's supposed to. It did. We're keeping you up.
Did you stay here last night?
As promised.
I just don't sleep in anymore.
I think that one time I'm going to. I'm just going to. One time I'm just going to stay here. It's probably such a good idea.
Do it on Shabbat. We'll have a Leil Shabbat.
Oh,
That's what you're supposed to do.
I know.
Or we could do it for Slichot. Start our service at midnight.
We can.
That had been done here.
It may have been done here?
No,
No,
it
it
was.
was.
We started the service at 11.
11, yeah.
We did 11.
Shabbat Shalom.
When I used to be in Utah.
Really done your rabbinic thing in some unusual places.
They have about 40 congregants in total.
Somebody can go home.
See, we'll put two of us around.
Shabbat Shalom.
So they only have 40 congregants, so they vowed actually, they would all try to come to everything. Because if what if you say like, I'm not gonna come this week, someone else will, so not that many people to choose from. So they really, they said, you had about 35 people.
Wow.
And every single thing, almost every single thing. For the bigger things, they all showed up.
The extra 5 all showed up.
They were all literally rocket scientists, all of them. Because they worked for Thiokol, which made the shuttle boosters for the space shuttle.
Where was this?
In Utah. And they were like PhD professors that worked at Weaver State or BYU, University of Utah. I think they were all professors or rocket scientists.
Did they have families? Were they
All the families, yeah. All the families. These gorgeous houses, huge houses in Utah.
Well, you could buy a house there for $5, right?
And because most of the houses were built for the Mormons,
Oh,
you have to
big
have
families.
72 rooms.
You have to have a basement. You have to have a basement because if you really follow Mormonism, forget how, I think you have to have at least 1 year of stored food for your entire family at all times. Because of the very use of Mormon.
Everything I learned about Mormonism, I got from the Book of Mormon. Oh, look at that. Surprise.
So they didn't use it for the food, but you had a whole other room that they could use it. So I went to some, I met with some of the Mormons, and it's true. I said, show me the basement.
Yeah.
Literally.
For what? For rapture?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, prepared for the
Armageddon.
end of the world. Unbelievable. I mean,
I have enough for a week.
I'm talking about for the year, a year storage. You have to check it and make sure to check it.
Oy.
Annual.
So unless it was canned, it had to have been frozen.
What's that?
Unless it was canned, it would have to have been frozen.
Right, exactly. It had to be.
It probably had to be canned because we can't rely on the power if the world is in.
What if you're financially not able?
Right.
They did for their
Hello and Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat
It's
Shalom.
nice to be with you. We got here about 10 minutes to 9, and there was no one here, and so we thought this is going to be. And then we have the
bus.
we have the bus, and there's like a thing that everyone shows up in the last 8 minutes. Everyone shows up here, and I love it. It's so good. It's like this nice thing. And now we know. Initially, for a few years we were really nervous that there wouldn't be. But now we know. Now we know. It's great. It's nice to have you. What's that? Welcome to Boca. That's true.
Haven't we learned that we should arrive early?
Yes. Beautifully said. Exactly. So people aren't following directions. Or if you go, as Cantor Muchnick knows for many years, if you go to a conservative synagogue, no one shows up this early on Shabbat morning. So no one showing up till 10:30, right? 10.
5 minutes before the Torah.
Exactly. And you just know when the Torah service is. So. Because you repeat the whole thing, exactly. You have to do all the shachrit, you have to do the repetition of everything, and yeah, which is, and that's why I also chose the Reform movement. I grew up conservative, and so I had to grow up with that all the time, and that's why he moved here.
That's exactly right.
That's right. Well, see, yeah. We are happy that you're here. We're gonna, if you're here for the first time or the 100th time, reminder that prayer book is right under your seat. Just reach right underneath. Prayer book should be right there. Please make sure that the cover says Shabbat and not weekday and festival on it. Hello to our live stream. We're pretty sure it's working. So hello live stream people, wherever you are. And we talked about this last night. Hopefully you're somewhere cool, not just cool like because it's like cool to be there, but like temperature-wise, we hope that you're somewhere not here. In the
Today? Feels like, yeah. Great. You know where I'll be?
in the air conditioning,
In my house.
in your house, in the AC, exactly. Okay, we are going to begin with a little Modeh Ani this morning, page 170.
Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla, Rabba emunatecha. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla, Rabba emunatecha.
We continue with Nisim B'chol Yom, our daily blessings and miracles, 175.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lezach v'bina lehavchin ben yom uven layla.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המכין מצעדי גבר.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al bisharumi.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן ליעב כוח.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shenameinai utnuma me'afapai.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozei Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen.
We continue with Elu Devarim. We'll explain this just for a second. Again, we're on page 180. 180, and so these are the things that are limitless. And there's a whole list of these things about honoring your father and your mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, providing for the wedding couple. So there's these beautiful lists. This beautiful list of things that we do without limit. And by the way, these aren't commandments. So it's not the 10 Commandments. These are just things that we should do because according to this, it says, if you do this, so these are the things, limitless, of which a person enjoys of the fruit of the world while the principle remains in the world to come. Meaning if you take part in these things in this world, maybe you'll get to be and enjoy the fruits of the world to come, is what they say. And then the last line, of course, is that even though it's a lovely list, all you really have to do is study Torah, because if you study Torah, you automatically know the whole list that is above, right? Because if you study Torah, then you know you should study or you should arrive early for study, and that you should provide for the wedding couple and accompany the dead and all of that stuff. So yes.
Aren't there Orthodox people who study the Torah but don't do it?
What do you mean?
They study Torah,
Yes.
but they don't visit the sick. They don't welcome the wedding couple. They don't.
They probably do. They probably do in a different fashion, in their particular fashion. Yeah, probably in some version of it. And it might be right. It also doesn't talk about, by the way, our intent on doing any of it. By the way, so you can. It doesn't say about necessarily. The commentary goes into it, but it doesn't say on this page that you can do these things. You can do it begrudgingly. You can say, I mean, it doesn't say that you can't. It's just right. So I think that many people take part in it, but you're like, all right, here I am. It's early. It says to be here early. It says I have to provide for the wedding couple. So here's the gift card. Right? I mean.
These are wonderful words to live by. We used to say it every morning, every Shabbat morning.
I know.
And I miss it. Doesn't everybody else?
Yeah, we did. We spent a lot of time on this once. So a few years ago, we spent a ton of time on this, just to examine this, which we can again. So I actually have some of our notes that we talked about. So I think we actually went line by line, I think, at some point, and went and studied different parts of it. So yes. So these are the things without limit. That if we do them, but don't forget, this is how Judaism works. We don't do things for the sake of getting to the world to come. We do things for the purpose of doing them. By doing them, we have the ability to merit the world to come. You see the difference? We don't do it because we're like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get there. No, we're going to like, no, I'm going to do this, and I mean I'm going to do this. By doing that, the chance exists I'm going to get to the world to come. Hypothetically, with this lovely list. Ready? Here we go.
Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Ve'elu hein. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור ואלו הן כיבוד אבאים וגמילות חסדים והשכמת בית המדרש שחרית וערבית והכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים והכנסת כלה ולוויית המת. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הן ועיון תפילה והבאת שלום בין אדם לחברו ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם.
ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, 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 ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם.
You're getting better at that.
I'm the last line. V'talmud Torah keneged, over and over again. Yeah.
With him? Yeah. So,
Yeah, I don't know how to do it either. It's just 50-50. I'm gonna 50-50. The 50-50. I'm gonna get the timing right. 50-50. I don't know. Yeah. V'talmud. Well, yeah. So it's because it's the ending. V'talmud. No, do the ending. No, you're ending. Ben adam lechavero v'talmud.
What?
Do the ending of the last two lines that you sing. From V'hava Shalom. No, start from V'hava Shalom, or V'iyun Tfilas.
V'iyun Tfilah V'hava Shalom Ben Adam L'Chavero V'talmud Torah K'neged Kulam.
V'talmud Torah K'neged Kulam.
You were early.
No, that was right around the time. That was right around the time. It's better than late. It's better than late.
You were early.
It was better than late.
You're following the rules.
It was better than late. Yeah. Exactly. I used to go to, I attended this summer camp, and where the adults actually were the campers. It was really great. And there was this whole section about dancing, and the dance teacher would always come up to me and say, practice makes, he would say, better. to me. So, yeah, practice makes better. Not perfect. He would look at me and say, better. Yeah. Our daily, what's that? He was critical. He's also one of the, if you know any Israeli dance, like dancing, you know, like all the circle dances, by the way. So there's a guy named Danny Dasa, who is the son of David Dasa, and David Dasa is Israeli, who really brought all those dances. He created all those dances from Israel, from his heritage. So if you know any circle dances you've ever done, they're pretty much originating from David Dasa, who gave it to Danny Dasa, who gave it to his son David Dasa. And so David Dasa goes all around the country and teaches these dances all over the place. So pretty much any circle dance you know comes from them. I don't know if he's Sephardic. I don't know. I could look him up. Dasa Dasa. He's a great guy. But he was part of this camp, and he would come up to me because he's this master dancer, and he would come up to me and he'd say, yeah, better. Not much. We continue with our section of Psalms this morning, Psukei de Zimra 183.
Baruch she'amar ve'haya olam.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Oseh Bereshit.
Baruch Omer ve'oseh.
Baruch Gozer Umkayim.
Baruch Merechem al
Baruch
haaretz.
Menachem al habriot.
Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov l're'av.
Baruch Chai v'kayam lanetzach.
Baruch Podeh Matzil. Baruch Shemo.
Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came to be.
Blessed is the one.
Blessed is the one who continually authors creation.
Blessed is one whose word is deed.
Blessed is the one who decrees and fulfills.
Blessed is the one who is compassionate towards the
Blessed
world.
is the one who is compassionate towards all creatures.
Blessed is one who words are reverent.
Blessed is the one who exists for all time, ever enduring.
This is one who redeems and saves. Blessed is God's name.
Baruch atah Adonai, Melech mehulal
Bachot. We continue in the middle of page 192 with Shochen Ad.
שוכן על מרום וקדוש שמו וחצוב רננו צדיקים אדוני הישרים נאווה תהילה בפי ישרים תתהלל ובדברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמקלות רבבות שמחה בית ישראל ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות הבוחר בשירי זמרה מלך מלכי העולמים יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעולמת דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי המאיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה V'himeru. Amen.
We continue now with the call to worship with Baruch Hu, page 195.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or v'roeh choshech oseh shalom uvoreh et hakol. Please be seated. We continue Ahava Rabbah 198.
Ahava Rabbah Avtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla Gedola V'Tzera Chamalta Aleinu Ba'avur Avoteinu Ve'imotenu Shebatchu V'cha V'talmedeim Chukei Chayim V'ha'erninu B'toratecha V'dahabek libeinu B'mitzvotecha V'yached levavenu Le'ahava u'lira et shemecha V'lo nevos V'lo nikalem V'lo nikashel Le'olam va'ed Ki v'shem kodshecha הגדול והנורא בהתחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu. Oh, that's wrong one. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
We're going to continue with Va'ata now, on page 201.
the right one. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
202.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בצל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue with our Song of Redemption, Micha Mocha 204.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופתח עמך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amidah begins 205.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך. מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה
Hakol. We
הכל.
continue with the Kedusha 208.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גון לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גון לך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גון לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גון לך, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue silently now, following along either in the text in our Siddur or your own silent prayers, thoughts, and meditations, beginning here on page 210 through page 219. When you're finished, please be seated.
Ose shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Amen. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
We continue now with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the Shabbat, the service for reading the Torah on Shabbat, on page 244.
Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'in kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor v'hador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai himloch le'olam ha'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo
Vashalom. Please stand.
Av harachamim heitiva mitzvotcha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim ki v'chol levad batachnu melech eram v'nisa Adon
Olamim. 246.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udvar Adonai mirushalayim.
248.
Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'hitushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Unerom ema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, ve'hagedura, והתפארת נצח וההוד. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. רוממו, רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, והשתחוו, לאדון רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו, רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, והשתחוו, להר קודשו, כי קדוש, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Please be seated. We read this morning from the Torah portion called Dvarim, since it is the beginning of the last book of the Torah. So it's just Deuteronomy. Find Deuteronomy, and you're there. That's all you have to do. Find the last book of the Torah. So you can, by the way, start from the beginning and go all the way to or you can start from the end. You can start from the end of the book if you want to and go the other way, because it's the end of the book, because it's the last book in the Torah. So all you got to do is find Deuteronomy 1:1, and you're there. Just Deuteronomy 1:1. Last book.
Super exciting.
Last book. Super exciting. Except for it's a little it's a little terrifying because of the high holidays are so close. And it's not so good for Moses. But it's the last book in the Torah. All you got to do is find Deuteronomy, and then you're good. That's it. Thank goodness. It's 1161 apparently. Wonderful. So it's the last book of the Torah. For the Aliyah, we're going to invite Toby Koritsky to join us. She's going to do the Aliyah for us, and we are, as a community, going to also have a moment to do a little gomel for her. That is the blessing we say when we survive something life-threatening. Come to this side. A little life-threatening, but either way, those could be a variety of things. So it sounds super scary. It can be super scary, but also there were a bunch of things the rabbis deemed into the realm of gomel. And so we're going to do Aliyah first, then we'll do Torah, then we'll do the Aliyah after, and after that we'll do Gomel, and I'll tell you where that is. It is in your Siddur, so we'll just follow for Gomel, and we'll do a little blessing for Toby. What's your Hebrew name?
Tova.
Tova bat Yaakov Batya?
Yeah.
Batya l'Aliyah Torah. Go ahead.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch
Hamborach.
Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ele הדברים אשר דיבר משה אל כל ישראל בעבר הירדן במדבר בערבה מוסוף בין פרן ובין תופל ולבן בחצרות ודי זהב אחד 11 יום מחורב דרך הר שעיר עד קדש ברנע ויהי 40 שנה ב12 חודש באחד לחודש דיבר משה אל בני ישראל ככל אשר ציווה אדוני אותו עליהם.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet B'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. משבח אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רחל, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את טובה בעבור שעתה לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה, בשכר זה הקדוש ברוך הוא שמריה ויציליה מכל צרה ומצוקה, מכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיה עם כל ישראל, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed her ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Toby as she comes up to the Torah in honor of God. May she merit from the Holy One of blessings, protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, or from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in her every endeavor. As together we say, Amen. So now we're going to turn to 253 at the bottom in your Siddur. 253 at the bottom. 253 at the bottom. 253 all the way at the bottom, and there here it says Thanksgiving blessing. It's not the blessing that we have for Thanksgiving over the gravy. It says Birkat HaGomel, 253 at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. So Toby's going to do that first part for us, and then we're going to reply. See, it says individual recites in a little italicized print, and then it says congregation responds. And that is how we do Gomel communally. So Toby's going to start. Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shegamalnu kol tov.
Amen. Mi shegam lachem kol tov, hui gam lachem kol tov sela. What we said is, what you said, blessed you and I are God, sovereign of the universe, who has bestowed every goodness upon you, essentially. That's what you said, and we respond with Amen. May God who bestowed goodness upon us continue to bestow not just goodness upon you, but on all of us. As together we say, Amen. Amen. We're going to raise and dress the Torah now, so you're just same page, just on the right side. So on page 252, we're going to stand and raise the Torah. Who's going to, our usual crew going to come up? We got, yeah? Great. Anyone? Okay, sweet. 252. 252, please stand. Thank you for standing. That was good. Well done, everyone. וזאת התורה
לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני
ביד משה.
תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. תורה, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 tzivah lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tzivah lanu Moshe. Morasha kehilat Yaakov, Morasha kehilat Yaakov, Morasha kehilat Yaakov. Torah tzivah lanu Moshe.
Please be seated. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the last book of the Torah, and yeah, that always means the high holidays are coming. Okay, that's yeah. So as you might have been hearing me mention leading up to here, is Deuteronomy is essentially, it's a 37-day long speech, exactly. It's a 37-day long speech from Moses. So the Torah really ended last week. What do you mean? How do we know it's a 37-day long speech? Oh, because all the commentary tells us that. Yeah. Everyone agrees. It's the last window. You can actually count it. So I actually might have, because you can count it based on when it starts, because he explains where they are. You'll see in the first sentence, because it's the 40th year on the first day of the 11th month that Moses addresses. So it's all in there. Yeah, it's in there.
11th day.
Yeah. So it fits in perfectly in all of the timing. So he has a 37-day long speech. And so the Torah essentially ends, like I said, last week. And so this is it's him speaking really the whole time. So he gets to reflect on this whatever way he wants to reflect on this. And we talked about this a little bit last night, is that Moses did a good job. He only has really 37 days left of his life. He did a great job, and he really could have just decided, I'm done. I did great. I deserve the next month to just vacation. Yeah, I deserve the next month. I know I'm going to die. I actually know I'm going to die, which is crazy. And I'm going to just put it on autopilot and not have to worry about this. But he doesn't. He spends the next 37 days talking to the Israelites. Yes? It's possible. I don't know the exact timing of that day, but it's possible that he dies on somewhere in the 37th day, though. Right, it's true. If you want to play on 36, not just the Chai concept, but numerology concept, also you have the 36 righteous people in the world. So you could play on the 36th, but probably during the day at some point of the 37th day. Is when he actually dies. You're saying the 37th day is to anyone on the 37th day, you're saying? Yeah, it's very possible. And also don't forget that a Jewish day starts at night. So it's also possible that right at sundown, it's already the next day. So even if he's quote alive on the 36th at sundown, it's the 37th day that he's still there. If that makes sense, because that's how all holidays start, right? They all start at sundown. So, like every time we have this conversation, particularly when it comes to the characters in our text, I invite us all to not just read the text, but to put emotion on what you think is happening to the character. So as we read the entirety of the book of Dvarim, I'd like for us to think about what Moses is thinking every time he speaks. Clearly, he's had a very emotional book of Numbers. As you recall, the book of Numbers was a very challenging book for him. He was challenged every which way. There were rebellions. His siblings died. He found out he's not going in the land. It was a very rough book for him. And so now he has this moment, as I mentioned last night, not my words, the words from Rabbi Sachs, from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, the late Jonathan Rabbi Sachs, is that he talks about the fact that maybe as this book, but also there's a different authorship. If you feel the flow of this book, it's different than any other book. So you can either go with the documentary hypothesis that they're authors, or if you're a little more traditional, you don't want to do that. You just want to feel like it's just a different flow of God speaking and connection to Moses, is that Moses transfers himself from being a leader to a teacher. So when we start this book, he becomes Moshe Rabbeinu when we start Deuteronomy, because he becomes a teacher rather than like the the guy in the front who's like, okay, let's go, the liberator, the all that, which he did because he was a liberator, clearly, because he got us out of Egypt. So it's a whole different angle for us to look at. In fact, there is some commentary that says that the book was written by an unknown prophet during King Josiah's reign, which is somewhere between 715 and 640 BCE, that this book was written by someone. And the basis of that has to do with how the structure of the book works. So you don't have to like that number, but it's a Hasidic concept, going back to your numerology concept. But that's what they figure, that perhaps it was a prophet, an unknown prophet during King Josiah's reign that writes the book of Dvarim. The whole book, the whole last book of the Torah. Okay? Yes?
Wasn't this discovered 1,000 years after the rest of the Torah?
The timing, yeah.
Under King Hezekiah.
Yeah, yes. It's
Kind of view it as more political.
right. And by the way, don't forget the interesting point. Also, don't forget that all the pieces of the Torah and the Bible aren't put together, meaning into this. Not what you have, because you have the Torah with Haftarah pieces and commentary. This is the whole Bible. That this doesn't get into this structure until somewhere between 100 and 100. So between 100 before 0 to 100 after 0, so it really only becomes an actual thing in that window, which is it's very late. It's very, very late in comparison. So the stories are very, very old, and they're wandering around. It takes a while for it all to get sewn and put together and become redacted, right? That's or canonized. That's the term we always talk about, right? Not canonized like do 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 do. But right, but thank you. You didn't think I was going to bring the 1812 overture into this conversation, but I did. So it gets canonized somewhere between 100 and 100, somewhere in there. And by the way, then there's something called it's called the Apocrypha. You know what the Apocrypha is? Yeah, the Apocrypha were the books that didn't make it into the canon. What's the number one book outside the Apocrypha? What's the number one book that didn't make it? Yeah? The Maccabees, yeah. So the book of Maccabees probably could have been part of the Bible, but it wasn't. So whoever was deciding this, whatever group of people were deciding this, decided to keep them, the first, because Maccabees is two books, the first Maccabees, the second Maccabees, keep them out of this. Exactly. Exactly. It was a New York Times bestseller. Exactly. So they weren't sure about the internet and the thing and how they're going to go. It was a whole big to do. It was on Instagram, whatever. So it stays out because it's not redacted. So it's a great point that the timing of this is all over the place, and nothing really gets officially done until that last 100-year window, and no one's sure exactly when. But almost everyone agrees between 100 and 100. Everyone agrees to that window. By everyone, I mean archaeologists and Christian theologians, Jewish theologians, all that on the timing of everything. But the Hasidim love the timing. The Hasidim and actually the Christians, the Christian views, love timing and dates. So they're also the ones who help us figure out all the redacting and all the timing. Well, we don't love that so much. We're like, whatever. It's around here. It's around there. Yes. 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 Just getting some water. Yes. Oh, really? That's nice. Oh, speaking of the Maccabees, thank you very much. That's really cool. That's nice. Thank you. And it's still living on, the Maccabees. See that? Even though it's not redacted. All right, so speaking of locations, we're going to talk about, oh yeah, go ahead. Then we'll actually read some text. Yeah. Yeah. That was the new sound for me, so I don't know. This place makes a lot of different sense. Exactly, it was me. I was like, do not speak badly of Moses. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, exactly. So that's also the first thing that we should think of is that Moses is going to speak for whatever 36, 37 days long, right? What's the irony? Is that he couldn't speak, right? And so now he's going to be speaking for this long.
Maybe that's why it took him so long.
It took him a while to get it out. And the super irony is that at the way end of this book, we're going to get to the Torah portion called Ha'azinu, and Ha'azinu is a poem that he comes out, like a song and a poem that he comes out with himself. So, yeah. Well, I'm trying to do this right now. See that? That was really good. That was good, and then he made a really good joke. That was very good. That was
I didn't hear it either.
he said it's a reference to my cousin Vinny. If you've seen my cousin Vinny, it was in my cousin Vinny reference. He said, Mr. Tipton. Oh, it's very good. That was very good. That was very good. That was really very excellent. You're excused. Yeah, you're excused. You can go. It's such a good movie. All right, yeah.
I'm confused. I don't know where this painting came from.
It came from Harry.
I don't view this as Moses' bitter old man.
Okay.
A wonderful summary of all that they've gone through.
Yes.
He gives them advice on how they should behave when
Yes.
they go into the promised land. These are not the signs of a bitter old man.
No, it's true.
I don't know where this commentary comes from.
It comes from Harry.
Why do I have to advocate for Moses? For goodness sake?
It comes from Harry. But also don't forget that. But also don't forget that Moses. I don't know. Is that Moses is also a human. So he is finding out. He found that already, but he is now pleading even further for the possibility of going in the land. So don't forget that he's also human. He could be doing both. He could be the sweet, kind teacher, but also carrying a bit of bitterness with him to say, I can't believe I schlepped you all this way, and now I can't even go in. So he has to be a human being. He can't just be okay all the time about it. Be like, I know, this is great. I've been loving schlepping you around this whole time. And now the only thing I wanted in my entire life is I can't do. He can't be okay with that because no one would be. But the level of how great Moses is shows us that he's able to find the balance with it. He's able to put the agony, the pain, the frustration, the anger somewhere, and yet also still find a way to be the teacher. That's where you find someone great, because we're all going to have emotions. We're all going to get upset. I mean, except for Muchnick. But we're all going to get upset. But I don't know. You were sitting there. You were sitting there. So, but I think that's the balance. Okay, let's do the blessing. We haven't even started doing anything yet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. All right, let's do a little reading, please.
These are the words that Moses addressed to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan, through the wilderness in the Arabah near Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir route. It was in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, that Moses addressed the Israelites in accordance with the instructions that the Eternal had given him for them.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, what is all of this mess?
It's kind of setting the stage.
Okay, there's a stage being set. Great. What are dvarim? Things. Things also, what are they? Words. They're words. So they're both. They're things and they're words. So he's setting forth these things, these mechanisms for them, but he's also speaking to them. So he's using these words. It's a little bit of both. Where are they? Yeah, they're on the edge. They're on the edge of glory, right? So have they been here before? Yes. So this is the end of the 40 years, because they were only a little bit over a yearish to the 2-year point. They were about to enter the land, and then they made a huge mess, as you recall. And then we get to the best Torah portion in all of Torah portions, which is Shlach Lecha, right? Which is not that long ago. And then the spies come back, and then because the spies give the bad report, boop, it turns to the 40 years. And they're pretty much back again to where they started. And these are a whole new crew, right? It's a whole new crew except for Moses and Joshua and Caleb. Good. All right. Other than that, really, it's a whole new crew, pretty much. Okay. So the words or these things that Moses are speaking, why is this construct, this opening construct, different than other constructs? The whole opening of the...
Doesn't say if God said to Moses.
Yes, doesn't say anything about God says to Moses. So you know for a fact, from now on, it's really Moses speaking, because it's not set up in the way, right, the Ber Adonai al Moshe le'emor, and God speaks to Moses and says. It says, Ele hadvarim asher diber Moshe. These are the words or the things that Moses said, that Moses says. Who is he saying it to? To all of Israel, right? So because at some point throughout all of our reading, there's been this group and that group, the priests, the elders, the thing, and occasionally just to Aaron. Here it's everyone. So everyone is hearing hearing what he says, and now he talks about the journey. So they're right on the other side of they're right by the Jordan River, the mighty Jordan. It's not so mighty, but the mighty Jordan, and here we are. And now it goes through all these random places, which you read beautifully, and thank you for reading all these weird places. So there's this place goes. So the Arava we know is the wilderness section. Then there's Suf, and there's Paran, and there's Tofel, and Lavan, and then Di Zahav, all these different places. So going back to locations or going back to connections, the commentary says, by the way, that none of these places really existed, that they weren't actual locations, that they were references going back to the not-so-happy Moses, that they were locations and moments in which the Israelites screwed up. So because he says, so in the desert, which is the first part that says the word Arava is the first one, right? It says Araba. Is it Araba in your book or Arava, whatever it says. So yes, so which is the desert, and the reference is right after the sea closes. The Israelites are in the desert, and they start to whine and complain, and the whining doesn't stop. So maybe Moses isn't talking about locations, but situations for the Israelites. Then it goes and talks specifically about the Arava, specifically, and then it says, what's the Arava? The Arava is used in the exact location for when the Israelites worship Baal Peor. That's in the section of Balak. Then it goes on to talk about Suf. And now it says opposite of Suf, because Suf is used in the text, was where the Israelites by the Red Sea again, by a body of water, say, why can't we go back to Egypt? At least they had onions there and leeks. Then it goes on to Paran. Paran is the location of where the spies leave from. So these all might not be. Then you go to Tofel and Lavan, and that has to do with the what was white that we know of, probably? The manna. And how the Israelites were like whining about the manna, like, oh, this is all we get to eat is this coriander and the manna. Again, I wish I had some meat. Do you remember that part where they say, I wish we had meat? And so God says, you people want meat? Remember that? And then they have meat that they're like nausea, like they're vomiting from the amount of meat that they're getting. Right? So all of these could have been, and then finally it says, there's two more actually, Hazerot it says, and Hazerot is the spot where Korach's mutiny takes place. That's the location where Korach says, why do you think you're better than me? And lastly, Di Zahav. What does Zahav mean? Gold. And so that refers to the calf. So some commentary says that it wasn't sweet, Moses. It was, these are the places I schlepped you to, and in each one of these schleps that I schlepped you to, you whined and complained, and you showed how difficult it was for me to schlep you. Yes.
Most of the time we refer to the desert as Bamidbar.
Yes.
Bamidbar, Ba'arabah.
Yes. Yes, so that's why the commentary has two places that to say, because the desert it refers to as perhaps the spot that we go into right as the sea closes, but there's also the Arava, because the Arava is the spot where it's also a wilderness, but that's particularly the wilderness where Balak sends in the Moabite women and then that's where the Israelite men turn, right? And then we have that whole scene with Pinchas, with the spear, right? So it's all that's all that region. Yeah, Toby.
I'm thinking maybe it's like he's reminding the people, we've had some trouble. This happened.
Yes.
But look where we are now.
Yes.
We're about to go into the land, and you can do things differently than what you did before.
Yes. Yes. That's very much possible. It's very much possible to say, this is just a review. You remember this? We didn't do that well in some spots, but here's the chance to do it. We're not that far away from entering the land, and it's a whole different overview. We don't know. We don't know. Is it sweet Moses? Is it a little frustrated and bitter Moses? Is it a mixture, or is it just? It could be this topographical, even though those locations didn't exist, it could have been just a topographical look at, like, remember we stopped here and we stopped there and we stopped there and we stopped there, right? I mean, you can go through all of the vacations you've been on, and you can actually make a map of where you've been, but also perhaps the more important things are what you did there, because you remember what you did at those locations, because you might even forget the city or the place or the time, but you're like, you remember we went to that place and we had the best time or the best food, or the family got along, or we saw the best sights, or whatever. The hotel was beautiful, right? So sometimes a location is less important than the thing that happened there, because it's very special. And also is nice because sometimes the place that you go and the place that I go has very different significance, because when you went, it was very special for you because of something. Right? And for me, it was like, it was fine, because I didn't find the significance of standing there or doing something, right? Whatever, right? So I asked my wife to marry me on the University of Maryland campus by the fountain area, because her name is engraved there because she was on the honor roll the whole time there, whatever. And I knew that she would find that place significant forever and ever and ever. Everyone else that walks by that stupid fountain is like, yeah, I know where it is. I know the location. I can give you the GPS location of exactly where that fountain is. But for the two of us, it's like that's the spot, right? So it's possible that it can be a geographical location that everyone knows. But the spot that's particularly there is really, really important, because it's important to something that was significant for you there, hypothetically. Yes? To answer Bob. All right, Bob. All right, get ready, Bob. Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right, Bob. All right, get ready. Yeah.
So yes, his heart and he meant to do good. He didn't want to be in the first reason.
Right.
As we find many times ourselves in our business life.
Of course.
So how can we stop ourselves, the question I get is, how do we stop ourselves from being negative and saying that we can look at the positive and how to make people believe in the positive? So that's the lesson that I wanted to carry from this.
I think of, so it was, it's a beautiful view, and I think of this. I think of all the great teachers that I've had. That if and because I live with a teacher, and so I know, and for those of us who were teachers, that you can't be happy every single day going to work. There are days that you just have to drag yourself into that classroom. But most of the time, the kids have no idea, because you have to still be happy and joyous and stand up there and on the chalkboard and do the lesson, and the whole time you're thinking to yourself, I am exhausted. I don't want to be here right now. And yet, you still have to do the job, and you don't get the day off. You don't get the day off to stand in front of the kids and be like, you know what, kids, I'm really exhausted today, so everyone just put your heads down and we'll take a nap. Like, no great teacher has ever said that sentence. And I promise you that great teacher, by the way, at some point during the year, just couldn't stand it anymore and didn't want to be there anymore, and yet they did. So to go back to your comment, I think that not necessarily, right? Oh, you're flipping it. I'm looking at it the other way. I'm saying that our intention might be a little off because I'm exhausted, but what you're going to see from me is that everything's great, everything's fabulous, like a teacher does. Uh-huh. It's possible. It's possible. And by the way, as you read in the further commentaries, because that's a very traditional view about what the Israelites and then the Jews are going to have to deal with in the future, because they're going to be exiled, and clearly the Israelites are going to the systems are not going to work. We talked about this before, because Moses is going to die. Joshua's going to take over. Joshua's not going to succeed. They're going to try having judges. That's going to fail. They're going to try to having kings. That's going to fail. All of that fails until we get to the prophets, and the prophets then are just screaming at us the whole time. All the prophets do are scream at us because we're awful. I think they do very well, actually, because I think that's haftarah. I think that's the stuff that we try and remember, because I think they're the ones who get through to us the most. The kings didn't get through to us, and the judges didn't, but the prophets do, because the prophets remind us that think about your actions, because your actions you're not doing enough. Right? This is what the prophets say. You think you're giving, you're not giving enough. You think you care, you don't care enough. You think that you're taking care of the poor like you're supposed to, you're not doing enough. You think that you're supposed to do the list that we did this morning of taking care of the wedding couple, you're not doing it enough. You're cutting every corner you possibly can. Every time you can cut a corner, you cut a corner. That's what the prophets are saying, and you know what? They're probably not that wrong about us. So they're the closest to getting it right, but it takes us a whole long time to get there. So there's a reason why on Yom Kippur, on the day that we're supposed to reflect on all the mess that we make, who do we hear from? Jonah, a prophet who screws up royally and has to find a way to figure how to figure things out, because he needs to. And that's why we're standing up and repeating our chest. Of all the people who we hear from on Yom Kippur, it could be anybody. It could be a section about Moses. It could be a section from Jeremiah. It could be a section from. It's Jonah that we have to sit there and hear about, so it's the closest that we get to this mess that we make. Yes?
Is he enumerating all these places to remind, because this is a whole new generation that wasn't there when all this happened.
Right. So, that's nice. So maybe it's just hey guys, remember the mistakes of the people who came before you, and let's not make the same mistakes. So maybe it's a completely positive view on all of that to say, look, you're the new crew. I won't even be here. So you're going to have to do this on your own. So I'm trying to give you the best tips that I can to not make the same mistakes that people did before you. It's possible. Yes? Is this a rebuttal or no? All right, okay. Okay, good, okay. Because you should feel free to rebut on anything that Harry says. Yeah. Yeah.
I get the impression that this is Moses speaking. This is a scribe setting the stage, setting the time and place. I don't think any of these words came from Moses, not from what I read in the text.
Okay.
I don't see Moses said in here, this is a scribe setting the time and place. He is going.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's fabulous. I just think that a more traditional view of it would disagree with you, because how dare we think that it's not the words of Torah? I think you're thinking like the documentary hypothesis, because right there are authors, and there is an author whose name is just D, and their job is only to do Deuteronomy, which is why many people believe Deuteronomy feels, sounds, is written in a whole different way than the rest of the books of the Torah. Because, right, the other four authors, the other three authors, sorry, might have had some input in the rest of the books. But the Deuteronomists, but D only does Deuteronomy. So he, they, whatever they were, is clearly very different from everyone else. So it makes sense. It could have been a scribe or set of scribes that were writing many years later, looking at it very, very differently, and that's why it feels different than the rest of the Torah does.
There are what's written here, and then there's the opinion of someone that Harry has. I mean, you can probably find someone who has an ultimately different perspective of what Moses was actually doing.
Yeah.
And might be a lot more uplifting. So there's opinion and there's what's in here, and I think that's why we're here, we can make our own.
Great. Excellent.
Even the style of the Hebrew.
Yeah, everything is a little different. So, with that being said, keep your finger right in this spot, and we're going to go back, because I want you to compare a piece of text. Are you ready? So, hold your spot where you are. Don't lose your spot, but we're going to Numbers 13:1. It'll keep us awake. Numbers 13:1. By the way, I'm not just taking you there because it's the best Torah portion in the entirety of the Torah. I'm taking you there because it's necessary for our conversation. She beat you, Harry. Yeah, no, but she beat you. Susie said that page number for you. I'm on page 311 in my book, so you people are all wrong. So, okay. So we're on 13:1. We're just going to do 13:1 through 3. That's it. You ready?
Thank you.
I know, it's good. We also don't need everything else. Go ahead.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Send emissaries to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelite people. Send one representative from each of their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them." So Moses, by the Eternal's command, sent them out from the wilderness of Paran, all of them being notables, leaders of the Israelites. And these were their names.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So now we would have the very long list of the significant people, and among that list, by the way, is Joshua and Caleb. Right. So they're in the list. You can look at it if you want to, just to proofread. But trust me, it's in there. Okay. So this is the command from God to Moses. I want to examine this section just for a minute. So, who is speaking initially as we start this Torah portion?
God.
God. All right, God speaking to Moses and says what? Yeah,
Send these out.
send these people, right? What does your text says men, send men to scout?
It says emissaries.
Emissaries. Oh, yeah, because yours one say men. That's right, because it's the different comment. So, all right, so send these emissaries to scout the land of Canaan, which I'm giving you, Israelite people, and send, it says one person, it says?
One representative.
Representative, great. One representative from each of their ancestral tribes, each of them a chieftain. And so now look at verse 3. What does verse 3 say? So Moses, now is it just Moses who's doing this, or it says so Moses by?
The Eternal's command.
Aha, okay. So why is Moses doing it?
Because God told him to.
Because God says so. Okay, good. Send them out from the wilderness of Paran. Remember we talked about Paran. Remember it's in the list of the places that they were. Remember that? Aha. This is a good book. So, and the leaders, yes. Yeah, you are. For the moment, yeah. But I just wanted to look at that section. Yes. So from Paran, all these people who were the leaders of the Israelites, and these were their names, which you don't need. Okay, so now we have the stages set. If you want to, try and balance your pages. So now still keep Numbers, but now go back to Deuteronomy, to our Torah portion, and I want you to go to, we're still in chapter 1, but I want you to go to verse 20. 20. You can go to 19. Go to 19. So still chapter 1. You can't be very far from where you were before. And it is verse 19.
Okay.
Ready?
We set out from Horeb and traveled the great and terrible wilderness that you saw, along the road to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Eternal our God had commanded us. When we reached Kadesh Barnea, I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Eternal our God is giving to us. See, the Eternal your God has placed the land at your disposal. Go up, take possession, as the Eternal, the God of your fathers, promised you. Fear not, and be not dismayed.
Okay, so what does this feel like so far? It feels like the pep talk for them to do what we read in the book of Numbers. But now let's go to 22.
Then all of you came to me and said, let us send emissaries ahead to reconnoiter the land for us and bring back word on the route we shall follow and the cities we shall come to. I approved of the plan, and so I selected from among you 12 representatives, one from each tribe. They made for the hill country, came to the Wadi Eshkol, and spied it out. They took some of the fruit of the land with them and brought it down to us, and they gave us this report. It's a good land that the Eternal our God is giving to us.
Okay, what does this sound like? Do the stories match? No. Why don't the stories match? What's different from the stories? Interesting, right? It says that, right? Where does it say that exactly?
In 22, it says.
In 22, it says, right? Then all of you came to me. You people did this. You people wanted this. Well, it's interesting, or he's recapping it the way he wants to recap it, because it's his book. Or the way he remembers it, or the way he wants to remember it, or something, right? And he said, and he says, you came to me and said, let us send men, right? And then we get to 23. What does 23 say?
I approved.
I approved the plan, right? I approved the plan. And so I selected 12 of the men.
Which is really was God's, according to taking God's place.
Yes. So what's happening? What's going on? Well, do you think Moses is telling us that? Do you think Moses is telling us that that Moses is God? Right. Yeah. Well, but he's saying it though. He's making, okay, interesting. He's making a big mistake in management. Why do you think so? Okay, yeah?
But
Go ahead.
I don't think he's saying that they did something wrong.
Okay.
This is not an autobiography, this is not Moses writing, this is somebody saying what he thought Moses said.
Right, but we can't go by that. I mean, we can go by that in our dialogue, but we can't go there yet. We still have to play with the fact that the text says what it says and it's in the Torah. We can eventually get to what you're saying because we know there's something called the documentary hypothesis, which tells us that there could have been authors of it. We can get there at some point, but let's not do that yet. Let's play with what we have first. You know what happens when you point a finger at someone? There's a 4 fingers pointing back at you. Yes, what are you going to say?
I think you could look at this a little bit like a parent talking to a child or older children, like teenagers or something. And yes, they knew what they were supposed to do, but things didn't work out. So sometimes you do need to repeat something. It's not saying you failed. It's just saying, let me remind you that when you took this course, this is how it worked out, maybe not great. So let me remind you and it doesn't have to be that he's taking credit for those words, but it could be, let me remind you because God told me this and I told you, and then, so I think of it more as a parent and not as a business situation, like Harry was saying.
Interesting, right?
My opinion.
Right, because we can't, and by the way, if we go with that, both as a child of parents and a parent of children, we can find ourselves speaking to our children and saying, "You remember the last time you tried this, it didn't go well." Now, as the parent, it sounds great to us as you reflect on this as a child, because this probably was told to you. You don't like hearing it because you're just like, no, that's not how it went, right? So I don't speak for myself. You don't even have to raise your hand, but how many people have ever exaggerated anything in their entire lives to maybe turn the story slightly in your favor? So, right, possibly. Just again, you're not raising your hand because, right. So exactly. I think go back to the fact that this is a natural moment for a human being who's put into an incredibly difficult moment in their lives, and try to figure out, is there a little bit of the pure anger and the frustration and taking out on them? Probably, yeah. I would agree. Is there the to Susie's point, I think that you said that the commentary can be, look at all the places along the way that the people previously have fallen. Don't do that, right? Or are we looking at a teacher, because we know, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs doesn't know everything, but in his commentary, which we talked about last night, he says that Moses, as the second we start this book, becomes the teacher much less than the other views of him and the leader and the liberator, right? So maybe in this teacher moment, he's also saying, let me show you and remind you the mistakes that you made along the way, because you made a bunch of mistakes along the way, and you know what? It's good that the teacher says so, but it's also not that great for the student to hear it, because I don't want to hear that I made mistakes along the way, but I made a bunch of mistakes along the way, except for Muchnick. Yes?
Well, I like the idea of the teacher, because everybody he's addressing who's under 40 or maybe under 45 didn't make those mistakes.
It's true.
Yeah, he's teaching them what happened.
Yeah, it's true. Hypothetically, these people haven't made those mistakes yet. Hypothetically, yeah. Yes. Yes, Harry.
The concept that I was talking about, something called management by objective, which is what we use in business. So we're taught, instead of telling somebody what they did wrong, phrase it to them as the question, can you think of a way we could have done this better?
Sure.
How would we have done this?
Of course.
And I think that's also the goal for all teachers.
Sure.
To get that across. But I want to add one more thing.
Absolutely.
I'm stating what it's research on and what I believe is shared. But
Mhm.
Just because I say this and bring it for us to share the light of what I think Moses failed terribly as a wilderness, because he didn't carry manna by objective. He was scolding them. Scolding them doesn't get them to address change and correct their actions. But if he would have asked the question, could you do this? Could you have done this? How could you have done that? Then they would have had their belief, and they would have bought into the concept of how to prove better, how to follow God's will. So it talks about the numerology on both the part, the 36.
Yeah.
To go back to when he says, you came to me and said, let us send emissaries.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his way of having them start to take control because he's not going to be there.
It's
Learn to manage.
it's possible. Yeah. There's a very good book if you've not read it, particularly you might enjoy it. It's called Moses on Management. It's a really fabulous, very well written book, and it takes management concepts, and every one of them is based in a piece of text from the Torah. It's a fabulous and very easy book to read, very well written, very easy to read. It's called Moses on Management. I've used it for curriculum and other stuff for many years. It's an older book, but it's very good. So I think it's available still on Amazon, Amazon.com. So, and then lastly, to go back to what Bob was saying, which is maybe all of this, by the way, can be, and for us to say now as a liberal movement, as the Reform movement, maybe all of this is clearly just a reflection on someone else who's writing this so that we can fit the book best for it to end in this way. But my question then is, why? Like, why should the book be written this way? What's the purpose of the book then? That's my sort of last question for us as we start to wrap up. Yeah. Okay, Bob.
It's clearly a different writer, because this is the first place the emissaries are called spies.
Uh-huh.
We're not called spies. This is a different perspective on what happened. It's obvious.
It's possible. It's possible. No, you don't have to apologize. I didn't write any of this stuff. So,
Same word. It doesn't say spies, doesn't say emissaries, just says anashim. Men. The Hebrew is the same word.
Well, it
No,
could be
but-
translation.
That's the translation, but the word in the Torah is men.
So.
Well, it
in
says
men,
emissaries.
In verse 24,
Verse 22.
no, I'm saying in verse 24, they spied it out.
there are.
Emissaries.
And they spied it out.
Okay, right.
I don't know what the Hebrew word is.
Iraglu.
Yeah, which are spies.
Right.
Which are spies. Yeah. So the wording is different because in Numbers it's more spies, and here it's more emissaries. So it's there is a nuance. So yeah. So there are obviously a bunch of different views. Here is for us to decide, and here's how we can end the conversation. There are going to be a bunch of differences all the way through the rest of our reading of this book. The question is for us to decide, is it Moses who's inconsistent, or might it just be a different author? And we can play on both of them. I will point it out, yes. I will point it out, and this is why the Torah is so good, because we get to have this dialogue and play with it, and why we can now use modern commentary to show us, because we have the documentary hypothesis, to show us different angles, so that everyone can feel okay about how we look at this text. So, and I guess the moral of the story is, which reminds me of what a rabbi once taught me. He said, I was in rabbinic school, and he said, when you become a rabbi, you should know, and you should also live your life with whatever you say, whenever you say it, pretend that it's going to end up on the front page of the New York Times the next day. He said. So he said, just be careful. So in the words of what Moses is saying and what the commentators are saying, we take it so heavily to think of what we believe because this is where it's coming from. So I invite all of us to be cautious of the dvarim, of the words that we use for this Torah portion as we use them, because to quote Larry Goldmark, Rabbi Larry Goldmark, that's what he says. Pretend everything you say will be on the front page the next day. Exactly. Shabbat shalom. Yeah. Larry would be, by the way, so happy that I quoted him right now. He would be like, yeah, my advice was so good, and you quoted me. He'd be so excited. Oh, there it was. All right, with the Torah still out in front of us, let's think of those in our community who are in need of healing, physical, emotional, or spiritual healing. Let's start with anyone on our Zoom.
Yes, thank you. Matt McDonald, Stephen Seltzer, Helene Seltzer.
Sandy Tanka saw those affected by the war in Ukraine, anti-Semitism, and the hate crimes and violence.
Shelley Anderson, Arthur Friedman.
משבח אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, וברך את החולים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם, לפותם, להסריקם, וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף, השתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and the strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen. We are going to return the Torah to the Ark, 256, and together we stand.
Yehallelu et Shem Adonai ki nisgav shemo levado hodo al eretz v'shamayim vayarem keren le'amo tehila lechol hasidav livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Eitz chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tzomcheha meushar diracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chanesh yameinu chadesh yameinu kikedem.
I didn't bring the announcements with me. So Rabbi Khan will be doing Coffee and Conversation on August 2nd. So that is coming up. You can also bring your canned goods, please, for our little free pantry. Every time you come and hang out with us, you can bring a little canned good drop in the bin that's right here outside the chapel. Andy Cohen is coming. He's a producer and runs, I would say, all of Bravo. So if you see the Bravo station, he's all over Bravo, and tickets go on sale, I believe, August 31st, I believe, for members, and then September 7th for non-members. And there is a very large buzz about this. So if you have the mild interest of joining us that evening, which is November something, I should know this. 9 maybe, 9. Then please be prepared to purchase your tickets very quickly when they go on sale the 31st. I think we're going to be selling them very, 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 very quickly. And then I also mentioned last night that we officially have a summer trip to Israel. So June 23rd, if you want to join us, it's obviously in 24 since we missed June. So June 23rd, we have our trip to Israel. It is an interfaith trip with us and Spanish River Church, our neighbors next door. So it is Jewish sites and Christian sites. It should be a fabulous, wonderful experience. So all the information for the entirety of the trip is already up on our website. So you can go to our website, hit menu, and you'll see at the bottom it says Summer 2024 Trip to Israel. All there, all right up there. We're going to continue with Aleinu, 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We think of those loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. In the period of Shiva, the immediate 7-day mourning period, we think of Yasmin Green and Eva Posner. And in the period of Shloshim, the immediate 30-day mourning period, we think of Gary Allen Kane and David Newmark. And our yortzites this week, George Cooper, Lawrence Siegel, William J. Belford, Isaac Honick, Dolores Karnowski, Ann Hoffer, Teresa Lanarelli, Dora Reiser, Betty Silverman, Maurice Shore, Lester Rosler, Harry Pearl, Erwin Diamond, Alan Israel, Lillian Gelfond, Joseph Robb, Ethel Kirstein, Marvin Davis, Sally Rosenthal, William Yasby, Albert Furing, Louis Ziden, Sarah Wallach, Sylvia Sellen. To those names, we had any name that you would like to add at this time. Kadisha Toam Mourners Kaddish 294. Yitgadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach chirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala shmei Kedusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechemata damiran ba'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel as together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated and bless you.
Thank you.
We're going to conclude this morning with
Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, 322.
Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kimalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, mi Chadonenu, mi Chemalkeinu, mi Chemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Adonai Oz Ramo Yitain Adonai V'lechet Amo V'Shalom. May God give strength unto our people, continue to bless us with hope and strength and peace and love. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And I was just reminded here that there's blanket buddies on Wednesday.
Oh, thank you. There are blanket buddies on Wednesday. That is true. Yes, thank you very much. Blanket buddies on Wednesday. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat